Doug! Did you know that today in 1983, California skier Scott Michael Peloton set the world barefoot speed record, going 119.36 miles per hour.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, when we reached for comment, Peloton said, let me quote him here, ow, 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 ow. Welcome to the Diehards. You know, Doug, nothing you could say can tear me away from my guy. Nothing you could do, because I'm stuck like glue to my guy. I'm sticking to my guy like a stamp to a letter. Like birds of a feather, we stick together. I'm telling you from the start, I can't be torn apart from my guy. Tonight, Doug and I talk about the players we could not quit. We talk about our guys. I am your host, JJ Wenner, and as always, I'm joined by the fantasy orthicle himself, Doug Orth. How you doing, buddy?
When reached for comment, Doug had this to say.
Ow, 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 ow. Listen, wouldn't it hurt going that fast on water? Oh no. Just jumped out at me.
JJ, I'm doing okay. It's I'm feeling the not the pressure. I'm feeling the weight, not the stress. I feel all the oomph of being the fantasy lead at the huddle right now. That's what I'm feeling. How are you, JJ?
Well, you are certainly a wordsmith. I loved how you painted a picture there of what you're feeling. Settling on oomph. I am doing terribly. Kids are doing great at school, having a great time. But it seems that every moment they can, admin comes up with a new thing that we have to do. And yeah, I'm running out of time to do all those things. So I'm developing like selective Alzheimer's, where I just forget what they tell me and I pretend I'm too old to remember. We'll see if it works, and I'll let you know. Now, Doug.
Well, take your medication before we continue with the show, okay? I don't want you to suffer from that now.
Well, I'm hoping I forget you. Anything the good people should know, Doug, before we start?
Let's see. Well, we're going to go with you teased the whole my guys thing. We're going to go with one quarterback, one tight end, and then we're going to go with an early running back and receiver, and a late running back and receiver. So we'll each do 6 total for a total of 12.
All right. That sounds good, my friend. So, well, let's start with our QBs. You can go first.
Yeah, I feel like I'm cheating right off the top here, but I came to the realization after doing about 4 or 5 high stakes drafts starting late last week. I would not say that there has been a must draft quarterback for me this draft season, but I did come to the realization after doing a few drafts that I want as much Lamar Jackson as possible in the 3rd round, especially if I landed a top 5 pick. The thought of landing a top 2 or 3 receiver or running back with the first quarterback ever to throw for at least 4,000 yards and run for at least 800 in the same season usually gives me one elite player at each of the highest scoring fantasy positions. Now, I realize that Josh Allen has been more consistent in terms of yearly finishes, but I would counter with the fact that most of Jackson's early career was spent focusing on his ability as a runner, that, of course, being under Greg Roman. His first year, over 401 pass attempts. Remember that. Most quarterbacks nowadays throw at least 500 times in a season, right? His first year, over 401 pass attempts, was Todd Monken's first season in control of the offense. In Monken's second season, Lamar Jackson posted the highest fantasy point total ever, just edging out LaDainian Tomlinson's historic 31 touchdown season in 2006. Now, granted, Jackson had one more game on his record than LT did that year, but the point remains the same. Better yet, the Ravens entered this season with a chip on their shoulder after yet another disappointing finish to this season. Now, while DeAndre Hopkins joining the Ravens did little to rock the fantasy world, given that he's how old he is now, his addition gives Jackson a player who can win in contested catch situations, which I can't say he had. I mean, he had Rashad Bateman, but Bateman is being used more as a vertical stretch guy right now than a contested catch guy. Anyway, so it just adds one more element to the offense that I don't think it had. Anyway, I'm not going to project that Jackson's going to top last year's 45 touchdowns or 5,000 total yards, but I'm also not going to say it can't happen.
I like that. I know personally, though, when I'm doing my drafts, when I was doing mock drafts, anytime I took a top 5, one of the big 5 quarterbacks early, I just didn't leave the draft happy.
And I understand. Yep. And I understand how
I don't know. It might be like a personal talent thing. I don't know if maybe I'm not skilled enough to recover from it. So for me, Doug, I went with a guy who is being drafted at quarterback 11, pick 99. I went with Dak Prescott. I found myself waiting and waiting until I had 4 receivers generally, 4 receivers, 3 running backs, and a tight end. Then in that 9th round, I kept hitting Dak Prescott. I love everything that he offers this year. We know the every other year thing. If there's ever been a year where they need to score a lot of points, it's this year. That defense is worse than ever, especially with the Micah Parsons trade. They have no real rushing attack unless Jaden Blue surprises us all or Javonte Williams suddenly comes back from the dead. And he probably has the best core of receiving weapons he has had. We all wanted Gallup to be that number 2 guy. I know I did for a long time before I finally gave up. But now with like CD and you have Pickens and you have Ferguson, I mean, I don't know. I think it's wheels up for this offense. So I was happy taking Dak in the 9th round. Where are you on Dak Prescott?
Yeah, you're not going to find an argument here. The reason honestly, if I had gotten to the homework before you, I probably would have went Dak. But the point being is, I haven't settled on a quarterback. If I have, let's say I have 20 plus teams, I'm pretty sure I know I have over 20 teams this year. I can't say I have the same quarterback on more than probably 4 of them. Just to give, but anyway, to your point, I would say you have from 3 or 4 years ago when Amari Cooper and when CeeDee Lamb was just starting out and Amari Cooper was there, that would be the only duo that would be comparable to what Dak has now. And I would say Jake Ferguson was better than Dalton Schultz. So, yeah, as far as weapons are concerned, I don't think Dak's had it any better. And just like the case in Cincinnati, probably not to that degree where the defense is going to just be so leaky that there's going to be a ton of game script situations where Dak and Joe Burrow need to throw. So if you want to look at Dak as being a discount Joe Burrow, you sure can, because I think it's entirely within. I'm not projecting 50 touchdowns, but I think 4,500 yards and 35 to 40 touchdowns is definitely within reason for Prescott. I just want to circle back to Lamar real quick. What I know, I tried this in my first draft of the season. It was more of an invitational, and I ended up going elite quarterback, which was Lamar, and elite tight end, which was Trey McBride. That one's tough to recover from.
The double.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the reason I've settled on Lamar was I was not comfortable even in the third round when I was getting Trey McBride and when Brock Bowers was slipping there the few times he was, I still wasn't comfortable even going with, let's say I started out CD and Drake London, which was happening. CD, London, elite tight end. I still didn't, as much as happy as I should have been about that, I just wasn't feeling it. Especially when I was getting, there's so many, I think, good low end tight end ones, and I feel the same way almost about low end quarterback ones. So, and I love the wide receiver 2 range. So, and that allows me, if I go elite quarterback in the third round, then I think I can get those even 2 wide receiver 2s in the 4th and 5th round. So I don't want to get too, this is a My Guys episode, not a draft strategy episode, but I just wanted to throw that in there because I think you can recover from one if you are willing to play to the strengths of the draft this year, but it's hard to recover from the double onesie dip.
Well, I mean, most of my friends at work who play fantasy football have been coming in and showing me their rosters. And my buddy, who I love dearly, kept taking early quarterback and then was also taking an early tight end. And I started looking at its depth, and I'm like, ooh, you're going to have some work to do at wide receiver, right? Because you can't have it all, as they say. So, Doug, who is your early running back that you consider your guy?
Well, JJ, allow me to make a confession before I get into this.
Oh,
yeah.
Should I put on some? Is this like taxi cab confession?
It's not that salacious.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, go ahead. I was getting interested. I was going to put on some. I was going to dim the light.
Hey, I'm a ratings guy, man. Okay, anything that can bump up the ratings just a little bit. I don't care if it's the intro. I don't care if it's the middle. I can't. Anyway, before my 3 Labor Day drafts, I was starting to panic a little. This is my confession. I was starting to panic a little. I had no Christian McCaffrey on my high stakes redraft teams. As luck would have it, I've landed him in 3 of the 4 since then. Look, I get it. No one wants the guy who's always hurt, right? But what if he doesn't get hurt, JJ? Don't fall into the injury-prone trap with players such as McCaffrey. Every running back comes with a fair amount of injury risk. His injuries over the last 3 years were a high ankle sprain, shoulder and thigh in 2020, a high hamstring and an ankle sprain, hamstring injury and an ankle sprain in 2021, and Achilles tendonitis and a PCL sprain in 2024. His injuries are not chronic. Yes, he is a 29-year-old running back who has played a total of 14 games and in 3 of his last 5 seasons. On the other hand, he was the overall RB2 in 2022 and the overall RB1 in 2023. No player has a higher fantasy upside, especially in an offensive scheme that has consistently proven to deliver elite fantasy production at the running back position. The best part of drafting McCaffrey this year is that his new handcuff, that being Brian Robinson Jr., is someone who can be drafted in the 10th or 11th round more often than not. So as in years past, where maybe you would have to burn a 8th rounder, 7th, 8th rounder to make sure you locked up Isaac Guerrero or Jordan Mason, and that happened. Yeah, I think it was more Jordan Mason in some drafts in the last year.
Wait,
but
I have to take a drink because you talked about Jordan Mason.
It's a Jets episode. It's a Jets podcast, and it's also a Jordan Mason podcast. So let's just get the 2 together. Let's bring the 2 together now. Let's get Jordan Mason on the Jets. Anyway, the fact that his handcuff comes that much cheaper, and that leads me to my final thing here. The thing with San Francisco running backs is that we know the system works. The system really works when there's an elite talent running back. With McCaffrey, and we know that's the case with McCaffrey. With McCaffrey, you're betting on an injury happening to him at a position where almost every player misses time if you are against him. If you are for him, you realize what the upside is and can handle the relatively cheap cost of his handcuff now. What say you about CMC?
I have to say about CMC, I had 0 shares going into this past weekend. Just wasn't that interested. He generally wasn't top of mind when I was picking. Now, in both of my home league drafts, I picked at 106. And in both of those drafts, McCaffrey was there staring me in the face. Now, I tend to like to go with a high-end wide receiver in the first round. But, man, I could not say no. And I ended up being so happy with my builds coming off of CMC, doing a couple wide receivers. So I'm very excited for him this year. I decided to be more aggressive in my home league drafts than I normally am. So I swung for the fences. And I'm glad to have him on my team.
If I can add one more thing before we get to your guy.
Please do.
If you want to buy what they're talking about in terms of strength of schedule or schedule difficulty with CMC or San Francisco in general, it's supposed to be the easiest schedule this year. If you buy into my metrics, which I take the player's talent into consideration, talent and scheme into consideration with the schedule and with the matchup, I have him third. Either way, he's got a sweet layout in terms of matchups this year. And you know what happens. Kyle Shanahan every year talks about how he's going to take a little bit off of McCaffrey's plate, and it's 22, 23, 24 touches quite regularly. So he's a swing for the fences. There comes risk, but we are ready to discuss the risk. And so if you're playing fantasy football, you're already in the risk business as it is. So
all right. We have a question, Doug, from the comments.
Oh boy.
Week 1 start from Jeans. PPR. Not that matters. Dak or Love.
Yeah. Shameless plug. I just posted the projections for the huddle up on the site today. So please check it out for all your lineup setting needs. I am going to roll with Dak on this one. I think I have him projected for, I want to say like 290 yards passing and 2 touchdowns with an interception. It was something in that neighborhood, but let's be honest. If the game script is such that Philadelphia starts pulling away pretty quickly, Dak could go for 340 and he could go for a lot more than 292 is what I'm saying. So I think Green Bay will keep their game relatively close. The Packers will keep their game relatively close, and they'll try to probably go more balanced, or they'll be able to go more balanced than I think what the Cowboys will.
All right, so Jeans, Dak is your answer from Doug. Now, Doug, for me, when I was thinking about who my early running back pick is, I didn't go in the first 2 rounds, because I'm usually not really taking somebody there. What I found is DeAndre Swift coming in as RB21, pick 55, middle of the 5th, after I start with somebody like CMC, then 3 wide receivers. There he is staring me in the face. What do I do? So I am not a DeAndre Swift fan, Doug. I wouldn't consider him one of my guys.
Right.
But this is the case that keeps going through my head. Ben Johnson knows DeAndre Swift inside and out. Ben Johnson took the job in Chicago and knew his running back was DeAndre Swift. He then went into the offseason, and the only move at running back he made was a 7th round pick of Kyle Monangai. To me, that says a lot. The lack of movement, the lack of aggressiveness says what he thinks he can get from Swift this year. Now, in Dynasty, I'm not saying Swift is going to be the guy for the next 3 years. I think it's one of those positions where Ben Johnson's like, he can do for now. And then much like they added Gibbs in subsequent years up in Detroit, they'll probably do that in Chicago once everything else is set up for success. So I love getting Swift on my team. I'm happy to have him in redraft. And in the 5th round as my RB2, starting with 3 strong wide receivers and a bell cow running back, that was perfect for me. What do you think about DeAndre Swift this season?
Yeah, I know I've said some I won't say unsavory things, but I've said some, let's say, negative things about Swift. He would be what I would term a scheme, build specific my guy, and what you're talking about. If you're counting on him to be, let's say you go with a 0 RB approach, then yeah, he's almost exactly what you would want out of a RB1, RB2 in a 0 RB build. But if you're counting on him to be anything more than the running back 20 or 21 that he's consistently been throughout his career, I think you're fooling yourself. We'll end up talking about Chicago's running game a little bit more here in a bit, but that's a teaser. That's a teaser, what we call a teaser in the business. But I think you nailed it with something you said early on too. I think that Swift is essentially a placeholder for this year, and then I think the Bears will end up getting their satellite back or their closest thing to Jahmyr Gibbs, which is asking the world, but the closest thing that they can find to Jahmyr Gibbs in the draft this upcoming year. But just like I said, a scheme specific my guy is where I would go with him. But if you're counting on anything more than low end RB2 production, I think you're going to be disappointed.
All right, who do you have next at running back?
Well, I did tease it. A late round running back.
You did
from Chicago. And of course, I already got my obligatory Jordan Mason mention in, so I can't talk about him now. I don't need to talk about him now. So JJ and I are going to be somewhat in lockstep with the team that we should target, or that you should target to be a quote unquote my guy. Where we're going to differ is obviously on the identity of that player. Everything Chicago did in the offseason was to beef up the interior offensive line. While that will undoubtedly help our boy DeAndre Swift, he lacks vision and he's not an inside runner. Kyle Monangai is. Kyle Monangai is not necessarily a special talent, but I can easily see a scenario in which Swift finishes as a top 20 running back yet again, but is upstaged by Monangai. Just as Swift was upstaged 3 years ago by Jamal Williams when they both played under new head coach Ben Johnson. Ben Johnson's had basically a hammer running back in each of the three offenses that he's coordinated, that being Jamal Williams in 2022 and David Montgomery the last 2 years. And I fail to see why he would not use one now, especially after the Bears invested big money into center Drew Dolman and guards Joe Tooney and Jonah Jackson. Do you have any thoughts about 15th or 16th round Kyle Monangai?
Listen, I know I disparaged him a little bit by just saying he's a 7th round back.
No, you're right.
But that doesn't mean if the price is right. Like, people always ask, like, who are the players who you're not like? Yeah, sure. I have some players who I will not draft. I have no interest in. But for the most part, I'll draft anybody at the right price.
Mm-hmm.
So what are you getting with Monangai? If Swift turns out to be the dud he has been sometimes, I don't think Roshan's going to show him up. So
Exactly.
If he becomes a consistent player, if Swift gets hurt,
mm-hmm.
he's stepping into a great role. Or at least what we hope to be a great role. So not against him, but I have to say I haven't drafted any Kyle Monangai.
I love targeting running backs, or I love targeting any position, but especially running backs who are basically one-away guys. Mm-hmm. That's why I like Jordan Mason. That's why I like Trey Benson. Trey Benson was going to be a consideration for this my guy. In fact, I probably have as much Trey Benson as I have Kyle Monangai. Anyway, but I love those one guy, one injury away, one thing away running backs, and you just laid out the case very well as far as what needs to happen for Monangai, because I think that will be that should be a fruitful fantasy outpouring, or it should be a fruitful fantasy environment for running backs is the Chicago offense, which is when's the last time we could say that? So not
very well, we said it last year. We were just all wrong.
Who is my guy for you late at running back, JJ?
You know, I'm not going to lie, and I don't mean to disparage the man's last name, but when you say you have a lot of Monangai, it sounds like something's going wrong with a specific part of your body, and that you might want to go visit a doctor. But for me, my late round running back, who I couldn't say no to, I was down to two guys. I was down to Jaylen Warren, who I drafted a ton of.
Good man.
And Ramondre Stevenson. Now, Jaylen Warren just got the new contract, so I figure he speaks for himself. I wanted to talk a little bit about Ramondre. So you're in the 13th round. You're building depth in your roster. And who is in front of you? Ramondre Stevenson. He's RB 43, pick 122. He's being drafted right between Tank Bigsby and Braylon Allen. So those are the three guys you can choose from when you're up. Is he a 3-down back, Doug? No. I don't think Ramondre is going to be a 3-down back. I think we know Travion is coming in. Travion is going to be the pass protecting back that we all hope he is. He's electric. He's exciting. But Ramondre is probably going to get the first 2 downs. Don't lose sight of his carries, especially in goal-to-go situations. You're getting him, where did I say?
13th round.
13th round.
Yeah.
You could do worse than ending up with Warren or Ramondre in this area on your draft. He is the type of back who will get overlooked because he's not sexy anymore, right?
Yeah.
He's not the exciting running back on that team. But he can definitely win you a week when your starter's on a bye. And if there is an injury, if Travion hits that rookie wall, Ramondre will be there to carry you home, baby. What do you think about Stevenson?
Well, let me ask you a question real quick before I give you my opinion.
Absolutely.
Who's the head coach in New England now?
We all know who the coach is.
Yeah. So Mike Vrabel, can you imagine Mike Vrabel have overseeing a team that has anything but a conservative offense?
Nope.
I can't either. I don't know. Yeah, pound the ball. And if anyone has seen the dramatic change in Ramondre Stevenson's body since last year, not to say he wasn't fat before, but he's pretty slim and trim now. And I'm with you. I think as much star potential as Travion Anderson has, maybe. Of course, when you're drafting a running back in the 13th round, of course, or 11th, 12th, 13th round, of course, there's going to be a risk that he's going to lose his job to the highly drafted guy. Of course, there's that chance. But that's good. I think it's going to be a conservative offense. Yes, Drake May might take a few touchdowns away from Stevenson, but again, I think the volume is going to be there, and so you could do a lot worse in this. I won't say the same range that you get in Kyle Monangai, but a couple rounds earlier. Why not sign yourself up for 150 to 170 carries from Stevenson? Because I think that's well within the realm of possibility.
I mean, especially when you look at home leagues, you have 16 rounds. Your last 2 rounds are taking a stupid kicker and a defense. So literally your second to last offensive pick. I'll take him. Worst case scenario, I cut him after 3 weeks, but you do that anyway, just to churn players.
Yeah.
Best case, he sticks on my roster for a while. We have a question from the audience. All right. I'm going to assume this is a redraft question. But
yes,
should he trade McConkey and Connor for Chase Brown and Waddle? All right. McConkey and Connor for Chase Brown and Waddle. No. No is my immediate answer.
So your answer is to stay with McConkey and Connor?
Yeah, McConkey for me is, I have him well above Waddle. Yeah. I'm not sure what Waddle is anymore, and I don't like Miami's offense. So I have McConkey above Waddle. Chase, I do prefer over Connor, only because I have a burning hatred for Connor. But I mean, Connor is like Mr. Steady. I know it's going to end eventually, but I don't know if it's going to be this year. And I think Connor and Chase are a lot closer than McConkey and Waddle, in my opinion. What about you?
That's fair to say. I don't want any shares of Connor unless I know I'm getting Benson. So because the cliff is the cliff is coming, and it's just a matter of when, whether it's this year. I mean, they did sign him to an extension last year, but let's face it, at his age, the cliff is coming. So, but yeah, I'm going to slightly side with the McConkey Connor side. But it's a fair enough offer. So you shouldn't feel like you got screwed one way or the other. But and I understand why you have to ask that. I think Waddle has a chance to be the number one receiver in Miami this year, but I don't think I want any more ties to Miami right now than I already have. So,
and of course, it depends upon your roster build.
Yes,
if you're lacking a great running back. JMO says it wouldn't be a normal week without JJ explaining his James Conner hatred. Oh, it would not. Much like my friend Jameson and Spectrum Cable. It's a burning hatred. But it depends on your roster build. Are you looking to upgrade your running back position from Connor to Chase because you're weak there? Then maybe that is a fair, you have to come off of McConkey for Waddle.
Well, I've seen enough third round McConkey that maybe if McConkey is the wide receiver,
I feel like you're talking dirty to me. Do you want the third round McConkey? What? Sure, I'll try anything once.
Right. You Pennsylvania folks, man, I tell you.
Gotta do something in farm country, my friend. Are we ready to talk about wide receivers before we get in trouble?
Let's do.
All right. You know what? Let's do our final ad.
Let's do an ad. Yeah,
year for full time. Do you want to crush your drafts this season? Then you need access to the most accurate rankings in the game exclusively. FullTimeFantasy.com. Football season is back, and Full Time is ready to help you dominate. I rewrote this on the fly. Use code BLITZ50 for 50% off your first 2 months and get access to the rankings, tiers, and members-only content. Sign up now at FullTimeFantasy.com. That's FullTimeFantasy.com. Go pro. Join Full Time Fantasy. All right, Doug.
You are a pro.
Who is your... Oh, listen. Go pro. Join Full Time. Who is your wide receiver? Early round wide receiver.
I mentioned in my bold predictions article earlier this week at FF Today that I believe, or that I think, I shouldn't say I believe, I think Devontae Adams will outscore Puka Nacua. I think that can or will happen based somewhat on a technicality, since Nacua is a good bet to miss time given his play style. But I also believe that head coach Sean McVay would love nothing more than to have a 1A, 1B tandem at receiver, kind of like he did back in the day with Cooper Kupp and Robert Woods. And then I know that was about 6-7 years ago now. It's kind of hard to believe it's that long ago already. But
recently cut Robert Woods.
Yeah, there you go. So, and frankly, what about Devontae Adams' history suggests that he's ever going to be a complimentary option? He goes. Now, I know Aaron Rodgers was there in New York last year. He goes straight to New York, and he's basically going toe-to-toe with Garrett Wilson, who is an elite target earner himself, right away. I don't think going to the Rams is going to be much different. I think he's going to attract targets at an elite rate with the Rams, too. The way I see it, the LA receiver situation will work out one of two ways. Adams will either demand targets at such a high rate that he outproduces Nacua, or he will attract so much attention himself that Nacua basically ascends to superstar status. Not to say he's not already a star, but there's another level. There's another level he can reach if Stafford, who's known as the kingmaker, just force feeds him the ball beyond belief. Either way, Adams should be no worse than a high-end wide receiver 2 most weeks. Even if he ends up being a clear second option to Nacua, which I think seems unlikely. He has been a steal for me a few times at the end of the 4th and beginning of the 5th round. I just don't think there's any chance outside of an injury, of course, that he doesn't beat that draft cost. I had some teams. I have some teams. He's a wide receiver 3 with a strong running back. It's just I can't imagine. I've done enough of these drafts now. I'm thinking I've gotten to the point now where I can pass him in the 3rd round because he's going to be there in the middle of the 4th, and I'm just, how are you taking Jerry Jeudy over him? How are you taking Travion Henderson over him? Not to disparage Travion Henderson, but there's a world where Adams pushes for 90 catches, 1,000, let's say 1,200 yards and 8 or 10 touchdowns. That works in any year. So, what do you have to say about Davante Adams?
Doug, I've ended up with a lot of Davante Adams in my favorite home league draft. It was on Yahoo, and I went CMC. I forget who I took at wide receiver. Came back with Wenner and Hampton, and then Davante Adams in the 4th. And I'm not going to lie. I might have been showing some excitement looking at that roster. I was like, oh, that feeling. When you're like, this is going right. Now, I will say, in a slight aside, Yahoo gave me a C- for that effing draft. Now, hold on a second. This is what they said to me, Doug. I know I'm going off the rails a little bit. My worst draft pick was Wenner and Hampton in the 3rd because I took him at pick 30 and they had him ranked at 31.
Oh my God.
And they gave me a C-.
The insanity. How dare you?
Every year I tell people, don't read draft grades. They don't matter. But I'm not going to lie. As an academic, as a nerd, when I get my report card, I rip it open to see how I am judged. And it hurt my feelings. It hurt my feelings, Doug. But yes, I look Davante Adams. I know what he did when he came to the Jets. He siphoned targets from my man, Garrett Wilson. But he earned them. He played well. He performed well. That's what we're looking for. And as long as Stafford is healthy, he's going to do the same thing. And he has a much better track record at playing and staying healthy than Puka does.
Well, ask yourself this. Whenever Stafford has had 2 solid receivers, and we're going back to the Detroit days, he had Golden Tate and Marvin Jones. He had Golden Tate and Calvin Johnson. He had been going to the Rams, Woods and Kupp. There has been 4 or 5. There have been 4 or 5.
Talk about Galladay?
Oh yeah, I skipped over him. How could I?
How dare you?
I know the 1 year of Kenny Galladay that we all had. Well, I didn't have him that year, which really hurt me. But there's been at least 4 or 5 instances in Matthew Stafford's career that he's been able to not only support two receivers, but support them at a wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2 level. So, and I don't think, even with some of the talent he's had, I don't think he's ever had Nakua and Adams. He's never had that level of talent at receiver on his team. So, and it makes me wonder why Stafford's not getting drafted more often. I know he's got the back and everything, but man, if Stafford stays healthy.
The back scared me off. I know in an earlier pod, I talked about him as being a steal with Puka and Davante. But the back scares me a little bit. My buddy JMO says, sometimes you just have to play the hits. Davante has been a pretty good hit each and every year. I agree, JMO. You are wise beyond your years, young man. Now, you brought up my guy at wide receiver, which is Garrett Wilson. I know it's a homer pick. I know it. This is a Jets podcast, so I apologize in advance.
Drink.
However, Garrett Wilson is tumbling down draft boards. I was just looking at the Fantasy Pros. What is that? Live draft or real time ADP?
Real time. Yep.
Dropping. Every time I look, he's dropping. And I get it. Nobody likes the Jets. I'm a Jets fan. Nobody likes my team. The head of my department popped into my room when I was just about to yell at the kids for being disrespectful. And he said, "Go Jets" to me. And I was like, oh. So I get it. He is going right now as wide receiver 17 after McLaurin, after Tyreek, and right before Marvin Harrison. I've been getting him as my wide receiver 2 or 3. He's being projected at 91 receptions for 1,100 yards and 6 TDs. He's going to get all the targets. They don't have anyone else except Breece Hall, who everybody's saying is going to be replaced by Braylon Lumbering Allen, whatever, Mr. 3.8 yards per carry. Oh, woo! Or Mason Taylor, who's a rookie tight end. I hope Mason Taylor shows up, but he's not stealing Wilson's targets. Wilson is great at getting open. That's what he does. He gets open and earns targets. So he has the 8th easiest schedule for wide receivers, and I know Fields is iffy, but Wilson is going to get volume, and he can do magic, even with a little. So for me, that's one of my guys. I'm not walking out on him. What do you think about Garrett Wilson? Don't say anything too harsh, because I might.
No, I have nothing harsh to say. He's one of my favorite players, regardless. This is going to be a first world problem, but I think I've only had 2 picks on the back end of the draft. Everything has been 1 through 5 for me. So it hasn't. I don't have any Wilson outside of dynasty team that I have, and I don't have any Wilson. I hope it doesn't end up being my greatest regret of this season. But at that point in the 3rd round, when I would be considering him in the 3rd round, there's always he's probably on the same level as far as like Jackson Smith and Jigba in terms of what their upside is. But I'm not even where I'm usually considering JSN. There's usually somebody else there that is, either in the high 20s for me. I think I have Wilson now at the back end of the 3rd round, something like that, which is unfair to him. I think the majority of the reason why he keeps falling down draft boards is because people can't control their Justin Fields hate, and I don't. And I know I said I may be partly responsible for that, saying that he was one guy I'm not going to draft much, but we've also seen where he has. I mean, people like to cite two years ago when he supported DJ Moore's best year. It's not that he can't support a player. If you're hating on Fields and you're hating on Wilson, you're hating on the first-year offense coordinator Tanner Engstrand, because we've already seen proof that Justin Fields can support a high-end receiver. So,
Doug, if you're hating on Wilson and Fields, you're hating on America, you're hating on apple pie, and you're hating on pizza. Communist. That's what I say.
Somehow you worked the green into the red, white, and blue. I'm not sure how you did that, but salute to you, sir.
I don't know the color wheel. I would say that's what happens when you mix some of those colors, but I am not an art major. Who is your late wide receiver?
All right, so JJ, I was a little bit torn on this. In fact, I had to make a last minute pivot as I was doing.
You're doing the pivot.
I'm pivot.
Do it.
All right, so I'm gonna go. I would love to just say one. I'm gonna give you 2 because I don't know which way to go here. I know which one I would draft first, but anyway, let me give you the first one, and that's Cedric Tillman. You say, Doug, why Cedric Tillman?
Doug, why Cedric Tillman?
Thank you. Man, you listen well. All right, so let's flash back in time to, I think it was late October, early November of last year. Mm-hmm. And Amari Cooper gets traded. And granted, it was about the time Jameis Winston was also starting. But we also know what happens with when Jameis Winston gets into the lineup. It's YOLO, right? But okay, so who was the first receiver that emerged once the change at quarterback happened? Tillman, that's right. Okay, again, we're talking YOLO balls from Winston, and we're talking, and a lot of times that means intermediate to deep passing. Well, that's going to be more Tillman's game than Jerry Jeudy's. The point being, though, is that it was Tillman that emerged first. if we want to, I think people are probably incorrectly. I think they're almost mixing narratives because, okay, they remember, first of all, they remember that Jerry Jeudy blew up at the end of last year, right? Because there was no one left in Cleveland. They also, I think, if they wanted to focus on somebody, they would focus on what Flacco did with Cleveland 2 years ago, which was hyper target David Njoku, right? So I think people are way off on Jerry Jeudy. I'm bringing this back around to a point here. If there's a quarterback that does similar work to Jameis Winston, it's Flacco. Flacco, it's still at 40. He still has an arm. I think he's going to be throwing the ball. He's going to be trying to throw the ball down the field a little bit more than just about every other quarterback Cleveland has on the roster right now. So as long as Flacco's the starter, and that's what I would say with any Cleveland receiver, as long as Flacco's the starter, you can feel decent about starting your Cleveland receivers. After that, I'm not feeling that. I'm not feeling that vibe with Dylan Gabriel. I'm not feeling that vibe with Shedeur Sanders. And I think we all know it's coming. We just don't know when it's going to come, right? So that's number one. Number two, kind of like my Christian McCaffrey regret, or I was starting to panic a little because I didn't have any shares of this guy. Now I can't stop drafting Luther Burden. And you're going to say,
that came out of left field.
You're going to say, what? Why the hell? What? Why the hell not? Yeah.
Why the hell not, Doug?
Okay. So he's now his value is probably at an all-time low, at least compared to where it was 2 weeks, a month ago. He's not going to start out the season in he's probably not going to be in the 3 receiver packages to begin the season. It's in large part because he started camp so late because of injury. So I think the 3 wide packages to begin the season are going to be DJ Moore, Roman Dunze, and Olamide Zaccheaus, right? I think we can safely assume that. However, if you're taking Burden, you're realizing that you're investing for the future. You're not investing for week 1. Burden is, for all the knocks that Burden has had, not being a great route runner, which he's not, certainly not yet anyway. Man, the guy has skill. The guy has tackle breaking ability. And so if you're willing to invest, let's say, a 12th or 13th round pick into a futures receiver, so to speak, hoping that you get a payoff around the time bye weeks start kicking in, that's what I would do. I would stash him, make sure I have him for the bye weeks, and if he hasn't shown us anything by then maybe consider dropping him. But Ben Johnson said it himself, the slot position is an important part of his offense, and I think there was I know I said earlier in the season, what happens if Colston Loveland ends up being that slot, but now I'm just thinking maybe Burden ends up being so dynamic that he just can't keep Burden away from being the slot. I'm not projecting anything like a Amon-Ra St. Brown outburst like he had, what was it, 2 or 3, or was it about 3 years ago now, when he basically just exploded on the scene mid-season. I'm not predicting that in this offense, but would not surprise me if Burden ends up being a second-half stud. What do you have to say about Tillman and or Burden?
Tillman, I have a lot more love for than Jeudy. Jeudy is one of the guys I'm not taking anywhere. I have no interest in him. None.
Same.
None. And unfortunately, my buddy who kept showing me his rosters where he was taking early QB always had Jeudy at his wide receiver 3. And I was like, I love your roster. You might want to beef up some. I kept telling him wide receivers to sign, but whatever. So that's how I feel about
Olamide Zaccheaus. Go get his Zaccheaus.
But when it comes down to Luther Burden, I'm a little bit nervous about him. I think if he shows up, it is going to be a second half guy. I don't know how. I would rather let somebody draft him and cut him after 4 weeks because he's done nothing.
Yeah.
And then get him off the waiver wire, while I might stash somebody like a Jordan Addison late, a Rashee Rice late, somebody who is suspended, who's coming back. I know they're coming back. because I think people are going to, casuals, normal people,
Right.
when they draft a rookie, they don't build in that rookie ramp up that they need to. And they get dissatisfied very quickly when they see a couple zeros show up in those first couple weeks. So I'm not drafting him, but I'm keeping him on speed dial.
Great way to say it. I like the distinction that you made there. That Burden is not for the casuals. And I feel I look at things like from a high stakes mentality. I know why I'm drafting Burden now, because you're investing. And if the investment doesn't work out, just like you said, but there are going to be plenty of leagues where 2 weeks Burden has 2 catches for 22 yards and 5 yards rushing, and I didn't sign up.
Or worse, Doug, he's going to catch 2 catches for -5.
There you go.
The screen gets blown up.
Yep.
You get negative points for starting a guy. He's cut the next week.
That is definitely within the so I mean, for any league that know your league, but if you're in a home league or whatever where people have quick triggers, then don't draft Burden, don't stash Burden, let somebody else do it and drop him, and then. But I think he has a great chance of being a second half stud. So that's where I am on that.
Well, you're talking about Luther Burden as the slot weapon for later in the season. I'm going to talk about my guy who's a slot weapon right now, and that is Pop Douglas.
Yeah.
Pop Douglas is going as wide receiver 67, pick 188. That is the 15th round. In home leagues, he's probably not getting drafted unless you're in one with me, and then I just took him. So who is getting targets in New England? We know Diggs is. We know Henry will get his. We're hoping Travion, because you're taking him in the 3rd round, is going to get his. But last year, once May took over, he had a really good connection with Douglas. Douglas is always open. It's in a Josh McDaniels offense. Josh McDaniels loves that slot receiver because it's easy targets. It's pitch and catch. And he loves just to move the ball down the field. Is Diggs coming on board going to eat into that production from last year? Sure. As long as Diggs is healthy and being a good citizen. We don't know how long that's going to last. Yeah. Right? It's been a shorter and shorter time frame in every stop before he wears out his welcome. But that doesn't mean, even with Diggs, that Douglas won't eat. In the 15th round, if he puts up the 666 for 621 that he did last year with 3 TDs, you're going to be dancing in the streets. So after you take a kicker, after you take a top defense and you come back into the 15th, you can get Pop Douglas. Do it.
Yep.
All right, Doug. I'm not going to ask your feedback. We're running a little bit long. No, give me some feedback. Who gives a shit? What do you think about Pop Douglas, Doug?
Oh, no, I can keep this short, man. It's you won't hear me say a bad word about Demario Douglas. The history of slot receivers alone in Josh McDaniels' offenses, and I know not every just because you're a slot receiver in McDaniels' offense doesn't mean you're good, but you hear enough. I've seen him play enough, and then you hear the positive stuff coming out of New England camp that he was the best receiver in camp this year. As long as you're not drafting him with the idea he's going to somehow score five plus touchdowns, you're drafting him because he's a PPR cheat code. And
he's a better Wan'Dale Robinson.
So I think I put in my bold prediction something like one of my bold predictions was Demario Douglas finishes with 80 plus catches this year. And I think that's entirely doable. No crumbs, as the kids would say. All right. Cameron is asking us what we think of his team. All right, Cameron, I can be vicious. PPR, 1 flex, running backs, Gibbs, Hampton, Walker, Gibbs, Hampton, and Walker, and Charbonnet as a backup. Wide receivers are Brian Thomas, JSN, Ridley, Pickens, Egbuka. Tight ends,
Njoku, QBs, Goff, and Fields. Well, obviously, the weak part of your team is your quarterbacks, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I'm not high on Goff this year. I'm actually higher on Fields than I am Goff.
Same.
I know that might be okay. I might be laughed out of some circles because of that. However, I feel almost like if this was on social media, I would have said, "How do I get into this league?" Or was that an 18 league? I mean, you have Gibbs and Hampton, man. That's awesome. Kenneth Walker, like those are three, top 24 running backs probably. And you're backing up the Walker injury, like proneness, if that's how you want to say it, with Charbonnet. Then on the other end, you get Brian Thomas, who's a wide receiver 1, JSN and Ridley, who I have as wide receiver 2, Pickens, who J-Mo loves more than life himself. And then Egbuka is a great flyer. I think Egbuka is going to be much like you are talking about with Luther Burden.
Yeah.
As we get into week 3 and 4, I think you're going to see Egbuka's production spike. Where are you on this team?
You did a great job of summarizing, but I'll just say he has three of my top 14 running backs, plus the handcuff for number 14. He has Brian Thomas, which clear wide receiver 1, JSN, who could see 150 plus targets. Yeah, but so basically I think he has 4 of my top 22 receivers, and then the only reason Egbuka's not in there is because we don't know as much as we need to know about Godwin, or else he would probably be in that top 22 too. And there is a world, we saw it last year for the first half of the season. Now I know we can't just say this guy's playing this role, therefore he is going to have this much production. But we saw Godwin last year through 7 weeks be the wide receiver 2, overall receiver 2. Egbuka can do that. Egbuka could be, by the time Godwin's ready to be back, we could be talking about Egbuka as the top 5 receiver. That's what this could be. And if Mike Evans starts feeling his age even a little bit, gets hurt or whatever, now we're talking 120, 130, 150 targets for Egbuka, or at least at that pace until. So yes, love this team. Just like you said, the quarterbacks are the weak spot. I would love to be able to trade off one of those receivers along with the quarterback to improve at that position, but great running backs and receivers.
I agree. As J-Mo says, all-time great. George Pickens this year, even better without Parsons. Tight end, sir. Who is your tight end?
This shouldn't come as a surprise to you, and I'm going to try to keep this relatively short because I've talked about Evan Ingram enough this year.
You have.
I
love him.
As a reminder, Sean Payton has used the term Joker a little bit, a lot in the last 4 or 5 years, especially since he's been in Denver. But in his own words, a Joker is a tight end or a running back who has elite, rare receiving skills. Now, ask yourself that, JJ. If a coach is saying rare receiving skills out of a tight end, you think there might be a chance he might play more than 60% of the snaps? You think there might be a chance he gets hyper targeted? You think there's a possibility of that?
Yes.
Thank you. Previous Jokers, in case you want to know: Reggie Bush, Darren Sproles, Alvin Kamara, Jimmy Graham, and Jeremy Shockey.
Heath Ledger.
Jack Nicholson. There you go. And let me remind the folks out there, Evan Ingram is just one season removed from a 114 catch season. And I would say that his offense environment now is better than it was in Jacksonville back in 2023. I know the big thing with Ingram until it was a big thing early in his career, then it wasn't a big thing until last year, was his durability. Do you realize the last time was the first time in 3 years that he missed a game? And it was the first time since 2019 that he did not play at least 15. In his 2 healthy seasons with Jacksonville, he posted at least 73 catches and 4 touchdowns. Even if that's his baseline here, he's still a tight end 1. He's still a clear tight end 1. That's with Trevor Lawrence, who we're still debating whether or not he's a good quarterback in an offense where, did they use their weapons correctly throughout the Doug Peterson era? Anyway, Even with how poorly things went for him in Jacksonville last year, he was on a 17-game pace for 121 targets and 89 catches. Only 3 tight ends last season had more targets and catches than that. Anyway, I talked about the offensive environment being better, more accurate quarterback, better scheme, better offensive line. He's no worse than the number 2 option in that offense, even with the influx of talent they've had over the last couple of years. I know Marvin Mims is there, the rookie Pat Bryant, and Troy Franklin coming on. I understand, but I don't think that's going to take away from the fact that you've got your Michael Thomas in the offense and Cortland Sutton. Now he wants his joker. The joker is going to be Evan Ingram. Let's not overthink this, people. So I think I have him projected right around 80 catches and 6 touchdowns because I think he will be an option in the red zone more often than he's been throughout his career. But it would not surprise me if he goes for 90 catches and 8 touchdowns. And at that point, I projected that out. It'd be roughly 216 fantasy points. And we have to go back to 2015 for the last time that a tight end scored that many points and wasn't a top 5 option at its position. What do you think about Evan Ingram?
Love him.
Attaboy.
Love him. I mean, I am not getting a lot of him because he's going before I can get him.
Really?
But yeah. And he's climbing up the draft boards. People are excited about Evan Ingram this year.
I've had mixed results in mine. I've consistently got him in the 8th round and sometimes in the 9th. I'm shocked that usually when I'm counting on him to be there, he's not. But my point being is I've got him as the second tight end sometimes. Anyway, let's. Who do you have to take us home here? And I think I'm going to like this one. I think
as our friend Brian Drake calls him, I have Turd Ferguson. Jake Ferguson, obviously, from the Dallas Cowboys, is being drafted as the tight end 15 at pick 133, right before Goddard and after Kyle effing Pitts. Pitts! Are you kidding me? When Dak last played a full season, Ferguson had 71 catches for 761 yards and 5 TDs. Dear Lord, that's a lot. His numbers suffered last year because he missed 3 games and Dak was hurt most of the year. But despite that, he posted more receptions last year than Pitts has had in the past 3 years. Like, I don't know what we're doing here, people.
Yeah.
Ferguson can play the tight end position. Is he exciting? Absolutely not. He is not the most athletic tight end you're ever going to see. He doesn't like break a ton of tackles, but he is affected. And in an offense where you now have CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens, what kind of coverage is Ferguson going to see? They're going to double one of those 2 outside guys.
Uh-huh.
So he's going to be in a lot of positive coverage situations. I'm happy waiting on tight end. If Ingram gets taken, man, I'm waiting forever until after I take my first QB in round 9 or 10. And then I'm getting Ferguson, following that up a couple rounds later with another backup tight end, Brenton Strange, who is free. And I'm happy. I'm happy. And if it goes badly, I'm going to pivot because you can always pivot to another tight end.
Uh-huh.
It's not that hard, people. What do you think about Jake, a.k.a. Turd Ferguson?
I don't know how many shares I have of him. I don't have enough. And I have plenty, but I don't have enough, if you know what I mean. Most of the time I've got him, I was able to get him as a second tight end just because he was falling into the 12th, 13th round. And at that point, there's nothing wrong when you're drafting to make a strength even stronger. So, let's say I'm wrong about Evan Ingram. Okay. How can you really do worse than a player like Ferguson, who plays a position that Dak Prescott has targeted? How long has Prescott been in the league? We're talking like
87 years.
87 years. I'd be willing to bet 85 of those years. He's had a 60 or 70 catch tight end with about 4 to 6 or more touchdowns. it's probably going to be low end tight end one production, but you know what? Low end tight end one production is. It's better than being drafted as a tight end 15. So
there you go, sir.
That's why I make the big bucks, JJ. That's why I make
Dear
the big
Lord,
bucks.
that's why we have this math background on YouTube, because he is crunching the numbers. 15 is better, worse than a 12 finish. That's genius.
10 less than, well, but greater than 15. Yes.
Greater than or equal to. I'm not good at math, and I didn't know it'd be on the test. All right, Doug. It's about that time for us to say goodbye. Let the good folks know where they can find you, and any final thoughts.
Yeah, I'll try to make this quick. My last submission for the preseason at FF Today was my bold predictions article that I referenced a few times during the episode. Please check that out. I have 12 bold predictions on there. Remember, they are bold. I've already seen the feedback from the audience saying that this sucks and this will never happen. Obviously, that's why they're bold predictions. As far as the huddle, I wanted to point this out. I won't have any columns coming up anytime soon, or at least I don't think I will. But I think our friend, at least my new friend, Daniel Mader, he joined us. He joined the crew here, and he did a wonderful futures article that hit the site earlier tonight. Please check that out. We're going to have some DFS content coming up in the next day or two. We'll have Brian Drake's start sit column coming up in the next probably 24 hours. So after a few weeks of slow being a little bit slow on the content, we're picking up speed now. And I just did my projections and analysis. Obviously I had some help on the analysis because there's a lot of players to analyze, but just had projections come up on the huddle here about 3 or 4 hours ago. So please check those out. Take us home, JJ.
All right, Doug, listen. Thank you for everybody for listening, for commenting. Please like and subscribe. Maybe not. I'm at JJ Wenner on the socials. I wanted to take a moment, Doug, to reflect on this past year. I wanted to take a minute to thank Full-Time Fantasy for the opportunity to do our pod with them this year. They graciously allowed us to use the Diehards channel. Doug and I went back and forth over how we should brand the show. It wasn't until we reached out to the great Bob Harris and asked him, would he be okay? Because if Bob Harris had said no, we wouldn't have done it.
Right.
Bob Harris gave us his blessing. So I want to thank Bob Harris. I want to thank Full-Time. I really want to thank Jody Smith.
Yeah.
Jody Smith was a great manager for us this year. He was our contact person. He did everything to make us comfortable and supported us wholeheartedly. Hopefully, we will be back in next March to bring you the same level of guests, of analysis as you deserve. Doug, I had a fantastic season working with you. This is our second full season doing shows together.
Yes.
I think we're improving every year. I enjoyed our witty repartee as the year went on, but I truly enjoy working with you. I love you like a brother, man. This has been a pleasure. I don't want to go on too much longer, but thank you to everybody who has tuned in, who has left comments, who has asked us questions. Thank you. I love you all. And until we see you again, make sure you're looking for us, but love yourself. Know your worth. You are enough. Boat drinks, my friends. Boat drinks, and have a great season.